Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again to this segment of the Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Bruce Broussard, your host. Folks, welcome. Hey, that sun is shining out there. It's beautiful. St. Patty's Day is this particular weekend, and by George, it was just great, fantastic. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Well, we got to get right down to business. As you know, we've got many issues that are out there that we're still dealing with here in the state of Oregon, and so I thought maybe as a recap and at the same time kind of a follow through with someone that I knew that was very, very active in the last campaign and whatever, a gentleman that ran for a Latino, that ran for governor of the state of Oregon. I mean, did an excellent job and was well suited, if you will, for the job, very qualified, if you will. And so I thought maybe it would be interesting to bring him on and kind of get a sense of where is he going to be going. We want to make sure that we can retain him there to run it on the next round or whatever. But anyway, his name is 03182023Show1Carrillo, and George is very neat. George, he's with us here today, and we're going to give him the opportunity to kind of maybe chat a little bit about what he felt about running for governor, and then now what is he doing now? He still have to eat. He got family and all, but the idea he has a career he's going to do. So George, welcome.
Thanks, Bruce.
Okay,
good
fine.
To be back.
Good. Well, look, why don't we just get right into? We got about 30 minutes, and I'd like to spend a little time and kind of get a feel. Bring the viewing audience an idea as to where you've been and where you're going. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're going to probably see you. Hopefully, we'll see your name on the ballot next time.
I don't know about that.
I know
Bruce.
you're hesitant a little bit about it, but the bottom line, he's very much, and by the way, he's a former Marine too, by the way. There's no such thing as a former Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. I mean, he said he had his cover in his car, but he has his cover. He said he has it on his arm. Why don't you show that? I want to make sure. Hey, there it is right there.
Just in case I forget.
There you go. Very much so. Well, okay. That's a little lightening of the matter. Well, look, why don't we just jump right on in, George? Oh,
awesome.
How's it going?
It's going good.
Family's fine?
Family is good.
Good.
Loving the sunshine.
Good.
I was getting a little bit tired of all this crazy weather. But
I heard that. Much of us are, right? You know what I mean?
I know.
Yes, very much so. Well, look, you did the governorship thing, and then what do you think? Just briefly, what do you think? Did you enjoy doing that?
You know, I loved campaigning. I really enjoyed talking to I literally talked to thousands of people. I got to hear a lot of great stories, a lot of tragedies, and the story isn't the same. It's all different depending who you're talking to and where in the state you're talking to. People. Everybody's challenges are different, but it's vastly different depending on whether it's in the metro area or in rural Oregon. So it was a great experience. I didn't necessarily like the political aspect of it when it comes to trying to plead the case of why you should vote for me, because all we end up doing in that is just trying to make each other look bad instead of really talking about the qualifications.
Well, one of the things that was very interesting with you is that when you tapped me, and known as people tend to identify me as a registered Republican, I'm an unaffiliated voter.
Right.
But the fact of the matter, you tapped me as one, and then so I thought about, well, gee whiz, I'm an unaffiliated voter. They hit me as a Republican, and here you are. You tapped me that basically looked at the gubernatorial race after you basically said, okay, fine, you were not in the top two, so to speak, and the person you were supporting was a Republican.
Yep.
And you were a Democrat. And we chatted about that. And what I got out of that was the fact that you were talking about representing people across the board.
That's right.
And I was very impressed about that. And so I want to respect you for that, because that's the thing I remember. And as a result of that, you got me involved in her campaign also.
Yeah.
And that was good. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But thank you for that.
Absolutely.
I want to make sure you understand that. And the kind of person we're meeting, like folks, ran all due respect, he was really interested in Oregon across the board. And he knew about the swamp because he said, hey, I'm going to go down and see this Bruce Broussard down here in Portland, Oregon. And so we've been talking ever since. So you had quite a platform. Really appreciate that. So going on further than that, and now all of a sudden, hey, here comes now you've done that. And now, where are you going now, and what are you doing?
Yeah, so I left the state of Oregon. I had this opportunity that was brought forward to me to work with an organization called Latino Built.
Latino Built.
Latino Built.
Okay.
And so they represent a very large base of membership that are construction owners and partners and everybody that's trying to help out the Latino community in the construction industry. And it was interesting because it was sort of right up my alley because of the infrastructure and development that I was responsible for the Oregon Health Authority. And it was really nice to be with my people instead of working just in this state government that's ran really as a very white dominant culture, that to make the changes that are necessary is incredibly hard to change. Not because we can't, it's because we don't want to. We just talk the words, we don't necessarily make those changes. And so I had this opportunity and I said, absolutely. So I left state service. It was a big change for me, but I am loving what I'm doing. I love being, at Latino Build, really working with my community and making a difference.
This is a national organization?
No, so it's a state organization.
It's a state organization.
State organization.
Okay. Nonprofit?
Nonprofit.
Nonprofit, okay,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, so we are, of course, we're culturally specific to the Latino community.
Right. That's your focus.
That's our focus.
Your lane, right? That's
but
not
we
wrong.
are the only organization that does that in the construction industry that focuses on Latinos.
Great. And so what are some of the things that you're looking forward to trying to get, some of the goals, if you will, of the organization for Latinos?
Yeah, so one, of course, always trying to expand, our membership base, the partners that we work with. I think a lot of people don't understand that we are the majority when it comes to the construction industry. You go to a construction site, you're going to see Latinos everywhere. And so we account for a little bit over 50% of the workforce. And because of that, we're a massive market for purchasing goods. And so that's where we like to work with our partners, just for instance, people that like for paint and for lumber and for cement, things like that. Like those are people that are partners, and they identify us as an organization that they want, their products to be represented through us because we purchase a lot of goods.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And what is your job?
So my job as the executive director is, of course, to run the organization with, a team of people. We have some great employees, and right now we are in this expansion phase of the services that we provide and how we're getting those services to the community. So for me, my job at the Oregon Health Authority was social determinants of health. I was a senior executive running that department. So now that I'm here, I'm looking at access for the Latino community. And one of the biggest things that hurt us is access to a proper education. And so I'm really main priority is to bolster our programs and being able to provide more education and more tools of technology to help our Latino construction owners.
And then in the education, are you going to basically from the various basic, if you will, in the education business aspect of it too?
Yeah, we're looking, what we do is, of course, we do some basic courses. We have 4 different levels of certification.
Okay.
And so it's not just what Latino Build certifications are, but we're also looking at what cities and counties and state level certifications are for different programs. So that way our Latino business owners can receive that education. Because honestly, if a construction business is going to be healthy, if their employees are going to reach generational wealth, that business owner needs to be educated and needs to understand how to run their business. And so that is where a lot of focus and concentration is making sure that our business owners feel supported, they're receiving the proper education and the proper opportunities to be able to get larger bids.
When you think about bidding and work and whatever, are you looking at both from a government standpoint and non-government?
Absolutely.
Both of those areas?
Yes.
Okay, and then working with various organizations that relates to that particular point, right?
Absolutely.
And from a government standpoint, the certification process on that end of it, And any non-government entity that bids to government, right? That's another big area, right?
Yeah.
And just a regular bidding process, the non-government type entities, let's say like the city of Portland or whatever, well, that's when the government or whatever.
That's another government
But
agency.
then on the private side, you think about that too, whether it be hotel and
Absolutely,
and,
because there's
restaurant business, all that kind of stuff.
Well, here's the thing. This country
Right.
was built off the backs of the minority community,
Yeah.
especially the Latino community. And so there is the government aspect and then there's the private aspect. And both still struggle with how to share responsibility. They still struggle with sharing profitability. And they struggle to still share in risk. And so, the bigger general contractors that are well educated, have been established, they have the funds, they have the accessibility to capital, they have a business model that ensures a certain level of profitability on their jobs. When you look at the Latino community, we don't necessarily have that. And so we're trying to write contracts for bare bones just so that way we can pay ourselves and pay our employees and really with no access to capital. So that affects us on both sides, whether it's private or government. And so that's what needs to change. And so that's where Latino Built comes in, to give that education and that advocacy to teach all of these different entities that you must share in the risk and the profitability with us because you need us.
Well, and then maybe one of the biggest barrier from that standpoint, as I see it, is the communicating, right?
Yeah.
To those entities, and some of the things that comes up are things like, okay, from a government standpoint, we've got a legislature, and we got a Congress, right? We got that entity for representation, and then actually on the private side, there's a lobbying entity on that aspect of it. But the government, people are familiar with a lot of the certification process as far as entrees for women and minorities aspect of it, and that's huge. That's a huge, like highway and things, and then all the other entities and whatever. As you look at the sick nomenclature of the various jobs, it's pretty packed. You know what I'm saying? Routine. So where do you fit in that arena? Let's take ODOT. Where do you fit in that end of it?
So, excuse me, where I fit in that end of it, that's where the advocacy part of my job is.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So reaching out and talking to senators and representatives and the directors of, different agencies, and for me, it's to try to make those policy changes within our state laws. It's to educate so many people within our government to understand that the decisions that they're making, how it affects us, and that we will also be watching, because your term can be as long or as short as you want it to be, because now the Latino community has a voice and we will hold you accountable. And that has been a hindrance for us because we have been pretty quiet because it's part of our culture. Even though we are the largest minority group in the state, when you think about the black community is very small compared to the Latino community. But the black community has done a great job of being able to bring things front and center.
Yeah, opening that door,
being very vocal about it, and demanding certain things to change. And so the black community has done a very good job with that. And with the Latino community, we have accepted what basically our fate is. And it comes with great consequences in order to fight back because of the legal status of our family members. The fact that throughout history, the government will say, fine, we're going to give you what you want. We take something away, but they don't replace it with anything that actually is going to help us. So it's better to just keep it the way it is, and we'll learn to survive. We are very adaptable. And so for me and Latino Built, we take that risk and that liability away from our community members. And I am now the voice to do that in order to provide the protection for our community.
Interesting, because you and I were talking just prior to the show. There's a bill sitting in the Senate right now that you shared with me, and then what you were just sharing, I think would be of interest, if you will, to the viewing audience and to your people.
Yeah.
When we share that, when you first identify the 280, how did the bill got there? Who represented the bill to begin with? Who got there?
Yeah.
Got it there, and identify what it is, and how do you feel about that bill? Just go right down the line.
Sure. So Senate Bill 850 is one of those bills that can change the trajectory of generational poverty for us.
Okay.
when you think about Bill 850, Senate Bill 850, if it is approved, who does it really affect? It affects the Latino community. It affects the Latino subcontractors and general contractors. Because what the bill states is that this is a PLA focus, of course, on the unions.
PLA meaning?
So I knew you were going to ask me that again, and I can't think of it off the top of my head what PLA stands for. But basically, it is for the unions.
Okay,
the unions. Multiple unions came together in order to present this as a bill to the Senate.
Okay.
And anything over $750,000 in government funding, public funding, is going to require for participation either in the union or that we are paying into the union. And so businesses can't afford that. And what people don't understand is that unions haven't always represented people of color well. When we look at the apprenticeship and the pre-apprenticeship programs that the unions put on, they have a terrible track record, and no one is holding them accountable for that. Their graduation rates are hovering right above 30%. 30%. Latinos, it's 10%. And it actually drops to 5% after 1 year of being in the trade. So there's a reason why for black and brown subcontractors and general contractors, 75% of us do not belong to a union. In their union leadership, they do not have very many people of color in their leadership. But they love to testify and bring other people to speak on our behalf that are not black or brown, but will testify to say how great the union is and how wonderful it is for the BIPOC community.
But you know, from a historical standpoint, whenever you said union to minorities or whatever, they'd all related to Democrats,
Yeah.
and that the unions were very supportive of black and brown. But what you're sharing now with us is that there's a concern now.
Well, I think so. Here's the thing. It's not that I'm against the unions. I am a Democrat, and I do believe in unions. But the unions need to be held accountable for their actions. Data and studies have been done year over year, disparity studies. We know that there is a problem within the unions. So what's the role of government? If the role of government is to only support special interest, then of course pass the bill. But if the role of government is to actually support the people and listen to the people, then that's what they should do and kill the bill. Because people of color, especially like myself and NAMAC, have talked to many senators, have tried to testify in front of the Senate to tell them that this is terrible. NAMAC and Latino built represent a large portion of the minority subcontractors and general contractors in the state.
NAMAC, that's National Association of Minority Contractors.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
good. It's something that Bob and I kind of get brought back to the state.
I use acronyms so much I forget what they.
That's okay. That's okay.
What it's called.
That's my job.
Yeah.
Make sure the other thing I was going to share, which we should have done on the whole issue of the 850, when you go through the legislature, it's going to impact both union and non-union, right?
Yes.
So the prime contracts on the other side are basically signing off on this bill, or what are they?
Well, yeah. I mean, of course, the unions.
Like the AGC, for instance.
Well, AGC is
that's
not
an open contract,
right. AGC is not supporting the bill.
They're not supporting the bill.
They're not supporting the bill.
That's kind of interesting.
Yep. We know the impacts of what this is going to do, not just to the Latino community, but to the community at large. When an organization now has to pay fringe benefits into the union, even though we don't belong to the union, that lowers our profitability margins. When we go out to bid and we're bidding on these contracts, there's not enough money. So what does that mean? We can't build as much. Oregon is in such a unique position that we have to build like 10 years ago. So we are really behind the curve. We have to build behavioral health housing. We have to build more shelter opportunities for people that are houseless. We need to build just more residential structures. We have a huge gap. And so when you think about that and you start saying, okay, we're going to change now this to help the unions, well, guess what? That lowers profitability margins, which affects our community that struggles with generational poverty. And it also hurts the community because now we can't build as many units that we need. So this doesn't make sense. who is it benefiting? Well, if it's not benefiting the community that needs the housing, and it's not benefiting the people that are actually working on these jobs, then who is it benefiting? The unions. And I have a problem with that.
I got you. Okay.
If they were, again, sharing in the risk and the profitability, that would be a different story, and I'd be on this show telling you we need to support Senate Bill 850. But because it's not, that's the reason I'm asking to kill it. And I'm asking the Senate to stand up for what is right and represent the people.
And as far as the senator who introduced the bill, you have an idea?
So right now the chair of that committee is Senator Taylor.
Taylor from kind of.
You know, I can't remember the district that she represents, but she is a Democrat, and I've been very disappointed in how she has handled the hearings. I have not had an opportunity to testify yet. My written testimony is in the record, but I haven't had an opportunity to testify. It is going to a working session, which I believe she's going to try to put it to a vote. And these Senate hearings have been postponed and pushed back, and the people that she's given time to speak has not been people of color. She's given more opportunity to the unions and lawyers that are in support of this bill than the people that it's actually going to affect. And, you know, I have no problem telling that to Senator Taylor or anybody. You know, in all the conversations I've had with multiple senators over the last several weeks, I have expressed my concern because Senate hearings, or any hearing, should not present itself as it's just a check mark on my checklist, because I've already made my decision.
So I'm thinking about the entire committee though too now. Is it any familiar faces that you saw that names that you saw that are part of that committee that?
So there's several people that are senators.
Have you taken a straw poll? That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, you know, we've talked to quite a few of the senators. And I think what's disappointing in all of the senators that we have talked to is that every single one of them can't give us what their stance is. They need more information. They need to understand it a little bit better. And when we talk about what this would do to the Latino community and the Black community, they all acknowledge, well, yes, this is a problem. We know that this is a problem, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So my question to them every time they tell me that is, so how is it that you don't have a position on this yet? How much more data do we need to show you that this does not support the community? So what I'm asking the Senate to do is to stop being politicians and to actually work for what is right. Because how many more times do we need to show that oppression lives within our state laws? I don't think we need any more studies to prove that.
Interesting. The other thing I was interested in, as you were sharing this with me, is the whole issue of the other agencies, for instance, that because most of you like ODOT and the City of Portland, you know, all the entities, they have an entity within that organization that represents women and minorities and pro whatever. Are any of those going up there and testifying in one way or the other?
I have not seen any yet.
None. Because you know the other thing too that I'll share, because I've been in this business too, the profit margin on any job for that matter is not that high, and so any penny you can pick up, that's a need. You know, most in fact, if you're starting out as a new contractor, subcontractor aspect of it, you start off, you're going there it takes time. To get to that point where you know, at a point that you can own equipment and things of that nature,
yes. And
it makes sort of a difference, if you will, in terms of your profit margin aspect of it. And I want to make sure that I brought that out to the viewing audience also too. That as you indicated, that piece that they're talking about is, as I saw it, was kind of like a push to get a lot of the ma and pa businesses to basically become union. You got to pay dues again, taking off the profits. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Got me? So has there been any situation where the union have gotten together with you, or in terms of spending a little bit more time as to how this is going to benefit both of us?
No, but to be fair, I haven't also reached out to the union either.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, there hasn't been too much of an opportunity, especially with this bill getting postponed. You know, being the ability to be able to testify, trying to figure out where everybody is coming from. And I think what's really interesting in these Senate hearings is that the union, you know, with their union representation and their lawyers, I don't think that they're doing a very good job of articulating why this actually needs to be approved. I think that they are relying on the financial backing that they've given political candidates to get this through the finish line.
They got quite a lobbying group.
They do. They do. And they've spent a lot of money. And that's where I say that my expectation of the Senate is to actually work for the people. And, you know, when you have that shaky of a bill and very weak testimony, what else do you need to see in order to show that, you know what, the right thing to do is to support the people and not the people who actually fund my political campaign?
And I noticed that you also represented the majority community from the standpoint of the mom and pop shops.
That's right.
The small shops. So,
Yeah.
So you know, and I'm thinking about their organizations. They've got their businesses. Are they reaching out to you? And in fact, that's one of the reasons why we're doing this show, right? Hopefully we'll get the word out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you did indicate to me that, hey, you're going to be very open, if you will, to sit down and really at the table and get to talk with the folks who, that's my answer, about who presented the bill. You got me? And then maybe there's some things there that they've not shared. I mean, she might have, I don't know how long she's been sitting in that seat, you know what I'm saying? But like you said, she should sit down and chat with you.
Yes.
You know, and I think that would make a lot of sense because that entity has been around for a long time and has always identified from a historical standpoint, from the union standpoint, that they have always supported minorities. And in this case, it was blacks, you know, and then like you said, and that's what was a tough fight, and still fighting today.
Yeah.
And it's good that you know, in all due respect, the Latino community is coming in and taking over, because blacks are having some tough times, and you know, but the bottom line is that you know, the brown side came in there and right in front with you, and I think about that, and this is good, and so hopefully, and I notice you've identified with another entity, and that Association of Minority Contract, NMC and AMC, and that's cool, and so like I said, now maybe we can get the word out and put together a gathering, and then here at and we'd be more than glad to get Oregon Voters Digest to basically publish that gathering, so we can educate people more.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the taxpayer is going to suffer,
Right.
in many ways, and we're all taxpayers for that matter. And the issue of affirmative action and certification and getting to that point where it's fair across the board, and we don't have to have these different entities aspect of it. It's a tough job.
It is.
And people are kind of like, and then you start thinking about, well, from a private contractor standpoint, the big boys, they're looking at their profit margin. And then so you ask yourself the question, well, what is the profit margin, and what would be fair? And then maybe they might be, you know, balance it off a bit and let everybody eat.
Right.
Is that fair?
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
so I just want to throw that on the table, because that's what I sensed that when we were chatting about this before we got here, and trying to get to the people and to let them know the impact that it would have on Latinos, and right up front with it, the rest of the public and the rest of the contracting business, all the mom and pop shops aspect of it, and I don't know of any other point person that has come to me and said, look here, we've got a problem, and then we'd like to share that, and you came on over here on the Oregon Voters Digest, and I really appreciate that, because that's who we represent across the board, see what I'm saying? And that's who you were, and that's how I was very impressed with your background, and why I supported you in the gubernatorial race, and why I supported Catherine. I thought she was a very neat person, and very outgoing. I just knew she was going to probably win the deal. But politics gets involved in this stuff, and we're here. So whoever's sitting in that seat right now, that's what we're going to be dependent upon.
Right.
And by the way, have you reached out to her? Are you going to be reaching out to?
So
I
have reached out to Governor Kotek, and you know, I congratulated her on a good race, and I'm here to help Governor Kotek. You know, for me, it's not about political affiliation.
Right.
Because it's not, you know, I am a Democrat, she is a Democrat, but at the end, I did support a Republican.
Yeah.
And all
It's
I
the
want,
people. It's the people.
It's for the people. And so I think for me, my message to Governor Kotek is that we can't just speak words of equity and create laws off the backs of black and brown when it doesn't serve us and our best interest, and only continues to serve this structure of a dominant society, because it's not all about it's not all about white people. Right. It's about the mentality of having the superiority and profitability and who has money and who has power. Right. So all I'm asking from the governor is keep learning as you're new in your role, and keep reaching out to communities and really not just listening to them, but actually making the changes that are necessary.
I'm sort of folding a paper over a little bit, and this was the Friday, March 17th paper, and there was an article, a very interesting article, that came in at the right time, and the heading of it was a survey. There was a survey made by Julie Goldberg and Hillary Ballard, the Oregonian law, and the heading was more than 40% of Oregonians have a negative view of Kotek. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're right in line. I think she'll probably hear what you're saying. So on that note, we'll leave it that way, right? You got it?
Well, I think one thing is that the true reality, even if Christine Drazen would have won being governor, neither one of them actually won the majority of the votes as far as like the percentage. 50% of voter, no one reached that 50% mark. And so when you have that, a wide variety of our state does not believe in our government, and that is an issue.
Yeah, it is. It is an issue, but we're going to have to work with it.
Yeah.
It's because it's not the individual we're talking about. It's the seat that they're sitting in.
Right.
And a lot of people tend to forget that.
Yeah.
So don't let the negative side of the piece on her, the personality routine, as opposed to focusing on what she represents.
Right. And the thing is that we need Governor Kotek to be successful.
Yes.
Because it's not about the next political campaign. It's about how do we fix tomorrow and how do we fix today, because we're living in it. And we need her to be successful.
Very much so, because we got many other issues in Oregon.
Exactly.
And in most cases, we got people that they're not eating, they're needing jobs and things with the home. You can identify all those issues, those major issues that we have. And you're talking about some major stuff, creating jobs too.
Exactly.
We want people to stay on the job, and we want businesses to grow.
That's right.
Yeah, so people like us can survive. George, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you, Bruce.
And I hope to see you again on this piece, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Semper Fi.
Semper Fi, brother.
Okay, folks, we're going to go on and take a little quickie short break, but in fact what we're going to do is just going to go in and have the other guests come on, and we want to thank George, and hopefully he'll come back, and good luck to your venture.
Thank you.
You're going to do a good job.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you, George. Okay. All right, then. Thank you, George. And now we'll just go on and we'll just go and have them change street like musical chairs. This is community television. Tell the family I said hello. Okay?
Absolutely.
You can go that way. Bob, come on, Bob. Bob, come on. Come on. Let's go.
Oh, it's my. Oh.
This way, Bob.
So it's 2023.
Go around this way. There you go. We're not taking a break.
Oh, we're not?
No.
Oh.
Okay. All right. Let's go on. Well, look here. As you know, this is community television, and we just played a little musical chairs aspect of it here, and so we've got our next guest, and Bob Williams. And there's Bob right there, and as you can see, he's got his cover on today. He's been around here for quite some time. He's Air Force, and I will say one little side note with the Air Force. When I was in Nam, sitting up there in Mag 16, and we were in I Corps on a helicopter base, and we'd get hit every night, and when, we didn't have too many quiet nights.
That's right.
Didn't sleep as much, but when those KC-130s came over with those Gatling guns, and kind of like when they hit a volley, it's like a football field size when it hits. You can sleep that night.
Yeah.
Sleep that night. So it was quite a deal. So I want to make sure you know that's why he's sitting here today. but anyway, George, how's it been, buddy?
Hey, it's been good, Bruce.
Good.
Just got back off of a 7-day cruise with the family, my sisters and brothers, and uncle.
Oh, great. Great.
Yeah, so we were down, went down, did the Mexican side, and
Good.
while
Stopped
down-
in various ports and stuff like that.
stopped in 2 ports, and
Cool.
I was glad it was only 2 because while on this cruise, that's when the 4 Americans got kidnapped when they crossed the border down in Mexico.
Wow.
And that was, it didn't make for a good off the ship type situation,
Wow, that was very interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Who those people were?
They came over from Texas, is my understanding, and it was 4 of them. And I don't know if I haven't seen all the news on it, but they either got in between a fight of the cartels down there or something, and nature. 2 of them got killed,
Really?
and 2 got kidnapped, but they gave them back.
Oh, wow.
So yeah.
Wow. That's very interesting. Okay, good. Well, look here. I brought you on today because I thought, because it's current event stuff that we're kind of like talking about today, you and I. And I just noticed that one of the things that we wanted to kind of hit on a little bit about was the polls, front page of the Oregonians Friday was Oregonians optimistic state can solve homeless crisis. Basically say even the homeless folks don't believe it.
Well,
And solving these problems aspect of it. And so I'd like to, just talk a little bit about the homeless aspect of it for a minute. And I noticed that you've been kind of involved with an incident that you say, well, hey, that has something to say. And we're right here in the Portland, the largest city in the state, got me? And so, and people they've been pouring a lot of money in a big pot. And a lot of people were concerned about the fact that there's a lot of money that's being given out, but nothing gets solved.
right.
You got me? And people are looking for results, big time, and it's really hitting the voters and rather the small families who are having tough times trying to keep that payment for the home going, the mortgage payments and taxes and things of that nature, and it just keeps going up, and every other day it keeps going up aspect of it. So let's chat about that. You had a little encounter with a situation when you were out there trying to help out with a group that you were working with as far as homeless is concerned here in the city of Portland.
Right.
Share it with the viewing.
Well, it was one of those situations where we were out during the cold weather, giving out socks and shoes, socks and gloves and jackets and scarves to the homeless. We went into one area downtown Portland. Police were sitting off to the side. As we were walking up, it was like 5 or 6 of us, and he looked at us. We went over to let him know what we were doing.
That's Portland Police, right?
The Portland Police. We went over to let him know what we were doing, and he said, "You're wasting your time going over there." He said, "Those are tweakers. All they're doing, they want the opium. All they want is something to smoke." And we looked over. You could see smoke coming up. But we went over anyway because they weren't clothed very well, and we offered them gloves and socks. A couple of them took it. The others asked for money, and we saw that what was going on, and it was reeking of the smell from the opium and the other drugs that they were doing.
The one that's getting there, yeah.
And so the question becomes, how can we in Portland or the police say, hey, we have a drug problem, and do nothing about it? We pass laws that say, hey, if you have this many drugs on you, it's okay. Well, how does that stop the drug problem? It's a misnomer. We can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And for us to continue to think that we can solve a problem by not doing anything about the problem is ludicrous. It's just plain downright stupid. We have to come up with a method to combat the situation. The homeless situation, what are we going to do? Build more homes? Who's going to pay for them? How are these homeless people going to pay to live where they're living? People have a tendency to forget that this is a capitalist society until it affects you. you know. And so the people that you're talking about, that pot of money, they want they want to get a share. That's because it's capitalism. And so we have to come up with a plan, a workable plan. You're not going to ever get everybody to agree, but you can get some to agree and work the plan. You know, we find ways not to. You know, it's like last week I was online, and the night before last I was watching TV at 2:00 in the morning because my schedule is off now, coming back from the East Coast, and it's amazing to hear your friend Donald Trump talking about separation. My people, we're going to do this for my people. Well, if you're going to be president of the United States, we're all your people. Doggone it, stop trying to divide us into categories and you know, bring us together. What are you doing to bring people together? I.e., the homeless. I got friends who lost their jobs during the pandemic, lost their homes. Didn't nobody go say, hey, we're going to help you with your home. You know, the moment the law passed where they could be kicked out, they were kicked out. You know, so we have to really and truly look at what we're doing. You know, I was listening to your host just a few minutes ago talking about the unions. Well, I'm an ex-union rep, and I understand what he's saying, but the union's job is to protect its members and the jobs that they are privy to. And so if you got another entity coming in trying to take those jobs, I'm going to fight. And my members that are now not working has to be sustained in some way. So, hey, here's how we're going to sustain them. You have to pay for being on that job, taking away that members, so we can sustain those members until they can find another job. You know, I mean, we are so used to hearing one side of the story until we forget that there's three sides of a story. As my dad always told us, he told me personally, Robert, there's always, when he was questioning me about something, there's your side, there's your sister's side, and then there's the truth.
Or the money.
You know, and so when you listen to something and it sounds too good to be true, you know, we the people have to begin to think, and we have to stop depending on just because we elect you don't mean that you run free. You know, I don't vote for someone to tell me what I should think. I vote for someone to do the things that we think is necessary to survive, for all of us in America to survive. Just because I'm black don't mean that I should go without because someone white wants it. Or because I'm black, I should get something that someone white can't get. You know, this is America. We should be working together. You know, whatever happened to that working together to improve, well, as they say, all boats rise when we all dump in water out of it to keep it up. You know, let's start thinking in a positive manner rather than a divisive manner. It's like I have some ideas that I'd love to talk to your past host person about, you know, because yes, I was an ex-union rep, but I also served on the board of directors of TriMet. That wasn't a union position, you know, and it was about making sure that TriMet ran efficiently. So you can wear many hats, but you have to be able to think as you do them. And somewhere along the line, we'll stop thinking. We're just accepting and acting.
Well, and not necessarily in Georgia's defense, but in all the entities discussions we've had, and you've been in some of those discussions too, is that too often when we're talking about something, people can't get the misconception that we're the ones that's responsible for the representation that we represent.
Right.
And that's not the case.
No.
And so consequently people get into personalities.
That's it.
And that's called politics.
Yeah.
and so, you know, and I was glad we did what we just did with George, because again, the unions should be reaching out to him, and he should be reaching out to them, and put together a table, and just like we talked, we chatted about it before we got on the show. Remember?
Well, this is America, where they say, "I got it, and I'm gonna hold on to it."
Right.
You know, and so if you coming after what I got, I'm gonna fight you.
Right.
You know, and so
Or you're going to at least educate them as to why you're
Right.
opposing it.
why are
Clearly.
you coming after what I have instead of developing your own?
Okay.
If the state says you must, if you're a contractor, you must have a 15% minority participation, and you can find a way to get around that, the state should tell you no. That's my attitude about it, because there's no way in the world you can't find people that want to work and do the job. You know, so we have allowed this to happen for so long, until now we're fighting each other. And as long as we're fighting each other, no one wins. You know, we're all just staying above water. You know, and it's just it bothers
Well, you know,
me.
that point you made, the union's been around, and they've worked hard to get their positions, if you
Right.
will, and making sure they got a piece of that pie. And but then when the affirmative action came out, no one gave that consideration. It was just a kind of like a namesake thing, if you know where I'm kind of coming from.
Well-
as if to say, you start out with a dollar. You know, you start out with $1, and you got two people at the table, and they split up accordingly, and they accepted it and went to law. But when this minority thing came up, they didn't do that to a certain degree.
Well, they did, but what they did was, and what most people don't understand is, it was minority,
Yeah.
and so that portion wanted to add women into the minority category, and the women fought it, and their husbands fought it, and then it became minorities and women. So now you can, and means that you can separate the two.
And still keep the mailing.
But you got the minority, but the women was getting it. Why? Because it was their husbands, their uncles, their fathers was bringing them into it and putting them out front, and nobody complained. Nobody really did anything about it. We saw it, but nobody did anything about it. And when you went to someone to complain about it, well, we'll see about that. And well, seeing about it takes a long time. You're starving over here. So you don't have time to go with that person that's seeing about it. You got to go try to find something else.
But my last
and they
guess,
get away with
but
it.
my last guess basically said, "No, I'm going to be doing this now,"
Right.
and that's good.
I don't.
Yeah, that's
hey,
good. That's good. That's good.
I agree.
Yeah, he's going to bring it to the table. Like I said, you're starting off with the dollar, but just don't play the game of saying minorities,
Right.
and then just that's it. But the dollar still stays over here.
Yeah.
No, we got. It's got to be if in fact that's what you're going to do.
Right.
If
I understand
if
it
the people-
100%.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. But like I said, no scamming no more.
Right. We've talked about our
We talked-
friend
oh, yeah,
who
we done
got the contract with the city.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say what
Yeah,
about,
right.
but it was a minority contract.
Right.
He went out and hired minorities,
Yes.
black minorities, Latino minorities. But when the Latinos got the contract with the city to hire, they said to him, "Oh no, this is for for Latino. We got to get them jobs." You know, and left him out in the cold. Now that's a division,
Yeah.
and that began to separate things.
Yeah.
You know, we have to be.
You have to be. Yeah. Your business. You file it as a business, and you
Right.
know the rules and the regs, and that's it. If it's $1, that's pretty well separated accordingly.
Right.
But like I said, you introduce this third entity, and then all of a sudden you got these other two entities now fighting for it because both have to eat, right?
Well, my attitude is a simple one. We have all these people coming across the border, undocumented workers and everything else. How are we going to? Somebody has to feed them.
Yeah.
Somebody has to clothe them. Somebody has to give them shelter. So we're now developing shelters for them, and they have no pathway to become American citizens because they're here illegally. So What do we do with them? Well, they come and they get on with this job. They don't vent anyone. Just find out about their social security number and all of that. They hire, they put them on the job, give them a paycheck. They don't know if that social security number is theirs or not. And bingo. You know, we have to come up with a better plan. We have a way into this country. And people should, if we don't follow our laws, other people will break them. And so we're not following our laws, so I don't blame them for coming. You know, but until we begin to follow our laws, we, the people that are here, then, until then, we can't complain about anything that's going on. All these things work hand in hand. You know. So
well, you know, in all due respect, you know, like you said, we started off that we're talking about the so-called homeless aspect of it, and the same thing. You define what is the homeless situation. Who are the homeless?
Right.
And 98, maybe 95% or so are actually American citizens, if you will.
Right.
You got me? And a lot of
especially
times,
military, that just hurts my heart.
That's a heavy piece. And,
Yes.
And that is very, very, very much so. So then you ask yourself the question of two things. One, you got the homeless there, and what the issue we're facing about all of the crime and the drugs and things of that nature and whatever. And people tend to forget, you know, they at one point in time they might have owned a place to live. And at one point in time they might have had a job, for that matter. So the key is that, but on the other hand, when this other anything happened, it shifted. You know?
Well, I look at the situation in Beaverton. We talk about current event. The situation in Beaverton where the owners of this property was not in state, but they own this home for the elderly, and they were being evicted because the rent was going up so high. And so what happened? All of a sudden, the state steps in, helps, gives a loan to the county, who in turn buys the property to keep those people there. I wonder, you know, as one person said to me, "Man, I wonder what would happen if they were black." You know, so I'm not trying to put a race on it. I'm just happy with the fact that they are still.
But it's an issue.
Yeah,
It's still an issue.
But so we have to stop looking at each other and saying, this black guy did it, this white guy did it, and start saying we are Americans. You know, that's the one thing I learned from being in South Africa during the election of Mandela. He walked up on that stage when there was a situation going on, and he said, "We need to stop this."
Now, Mandela, for those folks who don't know that history,
Nelson Mandela,
he
was elected president of South Africa.
Okay.
After serving years in jail.
Right.
He and I was there for that election. I worked that election, and we were in a soccer field that hold over 100 and some thousand people, and the blacks that was late coming was upset at the fact that the whites that got there early had decent seats, and they were beginning to to start stuff. And I had never seen anything like those guys in those leather coats went into the crowd and everything quieted down. But what was really bad was when the dude decided he was going to shoot off his gun in the middle of all of that. And they, after they finished circling Nelson Mandela, he walked to the mic and he said, "We have guests. We do not act this way. We are not black South Africans or white South Africans. We are South Africans." And we in America has got to learn that. We're still fighting race wars. You know, it's sickening to know that you're afraid to walk into certain parts of town because there's an idiot out there that think that because you're an Asian, you don't belong to, shouldn't be in this side of town, or because you're black, you shouldn't have this car. You know, you can't drive a Mercedes in Lake Oswego without being stopped. That's stupid. You know, we need to get above that. We need to understand that people is the thing, and that if you're capable of doing the job, hire them.
Well, you like you mentioned, for instance, Mandela, who was an elected leader, right?
Right.
And then I think he clearly understands the difference between the definition of an employer and an employee.
Yes.
Meaning that he's elected, but he is an employee
Employee
of the
people.
of the people
That's right.
who are the employers.
Right.
Okay. And a lot of times we forget that here in this country.
Right.
That we've gone through that, as you say, politics, right? We've gone through this where there's certain entities. If you got money, you get elected. The entity that may have that solution can make that statement, gets arrested, or can't get elected.
That's it. I remember when I was a member of the A. Philip Randolph chapter, and our national slogan was collecting after electing. We who are black don't collect anything after we elect someone. We expect them to do the right thing. Well, what's the right thing? We have to make a change in the way we think. For some reason, we've gotten into this idea, we've been sold this idea, I should say, that as a black person, voting for another black person, that's wrong. They're not going to get elected anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
It bothers me.
Well, a lot of times, that's again, we're still stuck in that personality thing. It's a personality. Listen to what the person talks to the issue.
Right.
Identify what the issues are, and then listen to the response. How are you going to solve the problem? And that's basically what we have here in the city of Portland and elsewhere, throughout the state, throughout the country for that matter. It's all over that way. But, hopefully you think we're going to probably get out of that. You see in the indicators that...
I'm just hoping that the young people won't walk away from the issues, but will come to them. I was listening to one of your guests last week, Posey, now the chair of the NAACP. He's my age. We want to retire. We thought we were retiring and getting out of the political arena.
Yeah.
We have to come back. We have to, because our what happened was babies were having babies and no one was being taught. We can't walk away. But we can't sustain an organization like the NAACP with elders. We got to figure out how we can talk with the young people to bring them back to fight the issues of old, because that's what they are. And how do they come in and help fight those issues? And we can't say, oh, they're just so young, they don't understand. Yeah, you'll be surprised. They do understand. They understand that they don't need the crap because they can go do something else and have fun. And this is and as we continue to try and do things to get us off the ground. And so it's just one of those things where
Well, in all due respect, you're right. You brought James up, but at the same time, one of the things I've been, we've all gone through this process. We've been doing a lot of things.
We've been knowing each other forever,
and we've been knowing everybody that we've been knowing the NAACP's.
Oh yeah.
We've been knowing all the leaders that got elected, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and it's always been on personalities,
right?
Rather than looking at the issues that the NAACP was supposed to represent. It's not but we played that personality so long. And in all due respect, you're right. I've gotten on Posey here, and I want him to come on the show aspect of it, but I keep making the point about the fact that it's not him.
Well, I think he understands.
But you got to keep getting there and then ask the question, well, what are you doing?
Right.
Don't get me wrong. You can make the point about what are we going to do for young people, but again, at the same time, when are we going to do it? I'm sorry, we're at that end. It looked like
we ran over it. That's what we do.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, buddy. We'll hit it next time, right?
All right.
Okay, thanks, folks. See you next week. Yeah, say that. You still got your photos on.